All right, so the first question, based on Hertzberg's two-factor theory of job satisfaction, what types of incentives and employee programs are most likely to reduce job dissatisfaction? So first, I think it's important to talk briefly about Hertzberg's two-factor theory, and that's pretty much just saying that job satisfaction, there's two distinct sets of factors that influence it, and that's employee motivation and job satisfaction. And first, there's hygiene factors, which are related to the job context and the working conditions. And the absence of these can lead to job dissatisfaction. For instance, in the case of hygiene factors like salary, job security, and relationships with supervisors and peers, if any of those are absent, you're definitely going to see, job dissatisfaction following close after. And then there's motivators, which are factors that are intrinsic to the job itself. And these are also related to job satisfaction. You'd see this in things like achievement, recognition, and growth, which would be the motivating factors. So, based on this theory, I think the type of incentives or even employee programs that would be most likely to reduce job dissatisfaction are things that would address hygiene factors. One example would be providing competitive compensation and benefits. Ensuring employees are fairly compensated for their work is really important. Then you could provide safe and healthy working conditions, obviously, and make sure you have clear policies and procedures so there's no surprises or feelings of, not being transparent. Something that might be possibly overlooked and underestimated is simply encouraging positive relationships between employees and supervisors and peers. Um, these programs would be essential to create a positive work environment. But to truly motivate employees and increase job satisfaction, you have to make sure you're providing opportunities for growth, you provide recognition, and don't forget to allow employees to have a sense of achievement to stay motivated. Now, next is the side of it, types of incentives or employee programs that are most likely to increase job satisfaction. A few examples of motivators to increase job satisfaction would be one, achievement, providing opportunities for employees to accomplish challenging goals and also to receive recognition for success on accomplishing those goals. Then, furthermore, like I said, recognition. You have to make sure to acknowledge and reward the employees for all their contributions and achievements. And you want to do that both publicly and privately, depending on the situation. Furthermore, responsibility, giving employees a sense of responsibility through things like giving them more autonomy and authority over their work and allowing them to take ownership of their tasks. Then it's important to think about things like advancement. You could do this by offering opportunities for career growth and development, and even provide opportunities for promotions and maybe incorporate things like mentorship programs. To add on that, the growth aspect would be providing opportunities for the employees to learn new skills and develop their abilities so that there's no stagnation or boredom sets in. They always have a potential to grow and continue to improve and feel like there's ways that they can achieve more within the company. All those are great ways to create that environment where employees feel valued. It's also going to help challenge them, keep them engaged, and in my opinion, that's going to lead to increased job satisfaction overall. So, question two, compare McClelland's acquired needs theory to Maslow's hierarchy of needs and ERG theory. Of these three theories, which do you think provides the most useful and realistic explanation for human development and motivation? So, first, we'll talk about each of the needs, and then I'll give my opinion on which I think is the most useful and realistic. First, McClelland's acquired needs theory. So this one talks about how individuals acquire needs over time, and that's through their experiences and cultural background. Needs are not innate, but rather they're actually learned through life experiences. And it focuses on three primary needs, which are achievement, power, and affiliation. So the first one, achievement, that's pretty much just a need to excel, to achieve and to surpass goals. The next one is power, a need to influence others and control situations. And then the third need, affiliation, that's the need to establish and maintain friendly relationships. So pretty concise and simple. The second one is Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and this one is the pyramid shaped hierarchy, which we all learn about in our basic psychology classes. And it suggests individuals first have to satisfy the lower needs, and they have to satisfy those needs, and then they can move on to the higher level needs. And the needs in order from lowest to highest is physiological needs, then safety needs, then belongingness and love needs, esteem needs, and the final top of the pyramid is self actualization needs. So the first one, physiological needs, is pretty much just your basic needs like food, water, and shelter. Just the things you need to survive at a basic human instinct level. And then we move up to safety needs, which is your need for security and protection from harm. Always having a safe place to live, and making sure that you're able to ensure your survival. And then we get to belongingness and love needs. And this is your social need for connection and affection, relationships with others, your parents, and friendships, and so on. And then the more personal needs as we get higher up on the pyramid is esteem needs. And this is your need for self respect and recognition from others. And then the final, most complex and interesting one, in my opinion, is self actualization needs. And this is the need to fulfill your potential and achieve personal growth. The way I always think about it is, when you go on that journey of personal fulfillment and searching for purpose, and finding what truly matters to you in life, and whatnot. Then our third one is the ERG theory, which is pretty much a revised version of Maslow's hierarchy. And it kind of collapses Maslow's five needs into just three to simplify it. And that's existence needs, relatedness needs, and growth needs. Existence needs corresponds to Maslow's physiological and safety needs. Then the relatedness needs, that's going to correspond to Maslow's belongingness and love needs. And then the final one, the third, is the growth needs, and that corresponds to Maslow's esteem and self-actualization needs at the top of the pyramid. So ERG theory differs from Maslow's hierarchy because it allows for the needs to be satisfied in any order. And also, one important thing is you don't have to satisfy lower ones in order to move up higher on the pyramid. They don't, depend on each other per se. So now we're going to compare the theories. A good way to compare them is to focus on the actual needs. While Maslow and ERG focuses on those innate needs, McClellan emphasizes acquired needs shaped by experiences. So, not things that you're born with and come natural, but more so, the nurture aspect, you acquire them over time and through your own personal experiences. Then differences is in the hierarchy. Maslow and ERG propose hierarchical structure where different needs are more important than others, and McClellan's doesn't. And the last one is to think about it in comparison through flexibility. The ERG theory is definitely more flexible than Maslow's hierarchy because it doesn't, depend on the satisfaction order. So now we're going to talk about, in my opinion, which theory provides the most useful and realistic explanation. So I think McClellan's acquired needs theory is the most useful and realistic explanation for human development and motivation because it's applicable in many modern contexts. For one, it acknowledges the influence of culture Also, experience and individual differences on needs. So it's a lot more specific to the person. Also, it emphasizes the importance of achievement, power, and affiliation. And in today's modern work environment, I think those are definitely are really relevant. Also, McClellan's acquired needs is useful and realistic, just because of how today's modern work environment is structured, in my opinion. So, to expand on that, McClellan's theory recognizes the significant influence of culture and individual experiences, which is very relevant in today's globalized world because individuals from diverse backgrounds interact and work together all the time. Also, I appreciate the theory emphasizes achievement and power, which aligns with many modern workday environments because employees value opportunities for advancement and influence. And then McClellan's theory doesn't have a rigid hierarchy of needs, so that makes it more flexible in many different situations. And I think that's important for individuals and organizations because they're always facing rapidly changing circumstances. And I don't think it can be understated the importance of the research that backs it. Um, it's seen that McClellan's theory is supported by extensive research. And last but not least, the theory simply has practical applications such as employee selection, training, and leadership development. All right, question number 3. Assume you are a manager of an auto dealership and all your salespeople and employees are achieving the goals they have set for themselves. What could be the problem with this? So, the potential problem, I think, would the possibility that this would indicate a lack of challenges in the employee's goals. Because if they're consistently meeting or exceeding their goals with ease, that probably means that their goals aren't ambitious enough. And that could lead to a decline in motivation, job satisfaction, and performance overall. Also, when employees aren't challenged, they might become complacent and feel less engaged in their work, feeling, maybe boredom might set in, for instance. Another possibility is the goals are too easy to achieve. This might mean that the dealership isn't maximizing its potential. And if it's not maximizing its potential, then the sales team could be capable of selling more cars. And if they sell more cars by having more challenging targets, obviously there's a chance for more profit overall and satisfaction from the achievement of meeting higher goals. But I think it's important to make sure the goals are sufficiently challenging, not too easy or setting things that aren't goals that aren't realistic. And this is going to maintain employee motivation and also it's going to drive performance. The second part of the question, um, how could you make changes? And I was thinking about ways that you could adapt and not feel like you're pushing them further than they need to, but find a way to naturally drive them and motivate them, and help them to stay engaged and want to grow and do more. So some strategies that I came up with to improve the situation and kind of adapt to it would be first to increase the goal difficulty, and you could establish more ambitious targets, which would require the employees to push themselves beyond the current capabilities. And at the same time, you want to make sure that the goals are specific. You want to make sure they're measurable. You want to make sure they're achievable. And it's probably important to put a time on them. So that also helps with the motivation and the challenge to meet certain time constraint goals. And this is going to provide them clear direction and hopefully add to that motivation. Next, I would introduce new challenges and responsibilities. And I could do this by assigning employees additional tasks or responsibilities. And hopefully that would increase the complexity of their work. Another thing I could do is provide opportunities for the employees to take on additional roles within the leadership, maybe giving them other lateral responsibilities or stepping stones to higher positions. Then another idea would be the tried and true method of offering recognition and rewards like incentive programs. Um, you would recognize and celebrate employees, especially their achievements publicly or in other situations privately, and this would boost morale and in turn motivation. Then it would be a good idea to implement reward systems, things like offering incentives when they exceed their goals or achieve certain milestones. And then I think another strategy would be provide continuous development and training. A couple ways you could do this is to invest in training programs to help your employees develop new skills and knowledge. And then also you could have more experienced employees serve as mentors and ask them to provide guidance and support to help the other employees grow and also feel like they're building those peer-to-peer relationships. Then finally, a good idea might be to encourage innovation and creativity by fostering a culture where employees feel comfortable sharing new ideas and even suggestions. You want to make sure you're always allowing employees to experiment with different approaches to their work, not putting them in a box or making them feel like, they're restricted to doing things. I mean, it's important to have a standard procedure, but, in something like sales and, more entrepreneurship related roles, it might be, an important thing to help encourage them to think outside the box and do things in creative ways if they come up with ideas so they feel like they can grow. All these ideas could challenge the employees and hopefully engage them, and that would encourage them to strive for more excellence in their positions and for the company, and hopefully they would continuously improve their performance. So the final question, first half, to what extent are perceptions of procedural justice versus distributive justice a matter of perception? So in my opinion, perceptions of procedural and distributive justice are actually largely a matter of perception. Procedural justice is the fairness of the process used to make decisions. This involves factors like transparency, consistency, and impartiality. Then, on the other hand, distributive justice is the fairness of the outcomes or the results. And this involves factors like equity, equality, and merit. There may be objective ways to assess whether a process or outcome is fair, but ultimately, in my opinion, it's the individual's perception that determines whether they feel the process or outcome is just. You see, the perception is influenced by factors like individual values and beliefs, cultural norms and expectations, personal experiences, and communication and transparency. So while there may be objective standards for fairness, ultimately it's the individual's perception that determines whether they feel a process or the outcome is just. For instance, I see examples of this in cases like when people have different values and beliefs about what constitutes fairness, and that can influence their perceptions of justice. Then, in situations when cultural norms and expectations shape people's perceptions of what is considered fair or unfair, you can see it. And then also, past experiences with fair or unfair treatment can definitely influence people's expectations and perceptions of justice. And then finally, clear communication and transparency can improve perceptions of justice, but a lack of information can lead to feelings of unfairness. So, the second half of the question is, how can managers reduce inaccurate perceptions of workplace iniquities? So, some strategies managers could use to reduce inaccurate perceptions of workplace iniquities would be to incorporate things like open communication, fair and consistent procedures, employee involvement, fair compensation and benefits, diversity and inclusion initiatives, and also provide regular feedback and offer surveys. For the first one, it's important to be transparent about decision making processes, performance expectations, and even compensation structures when possible. You could also ensure open communication by providing regular feedback to your employees on their performances and also their development. Then it's important to ensure policies and procedures are clear, that they're fair, and they're consistently applied and always adhere to due process when you're making decisions that affect employees. Another strategy is to seek input from employees on decisions that are going to affect them. Also, decisions that are going to affect them. It's important to involve them in that decision-making process if that's a possibility. When you're thinking about fair compensation and benefits, I think it's an important strategy to ensure that compensation and benefits are fair and equitable based on performance and job responsibilities to keep it, always objective. That should start with being transparent about compensation and benefits policies up front, and times like the interview process, training, and going over, things when you're working with your employees, when you're providing that one-on-one time. The next thing is definitely important, and it's foundational to be successful in today's environment. And also, thankfully, it's become standard procedure nowadays. And that's to promote diversity and inclusion in the workplace to ensure that all employees feel valued and respected. Also, there needs to be training on unconscious bias, diversity, and inclusion so that there's, a clear understanding for employees to know what these things are and to give them the tools and the resources to learn about them if they possibly haven't been exposed or experienced them, in previous work environments, to make sure that they're up to date. Finally, it's important to make sure that strategies are effective, simply by, checking in with your employees, by asking for their feedback, asking them, how they're receiving, these strategies and these programs. You could do this by conducting regular surveys to gather feedback, or you could even just, maintain an open door policy, encouraging them to raise concerns or issues whenever they come up. All these strategies are going to help create a workplace where employees feel valued, respected, and that they're being treated fairly. And that in turn, hopefully, is going to reduce inaccurate perceptions of workplace inequities and make sure that, they don't come up in the first place.